I'm Jesse McAnally.
And I'm Andrew DeWolf.
And I'm Brianna Jones.
And welcome to Musicals with Cheese, a podcast where I try to get Andrew to like musical theater. And Andrew, we have an extra special returning guest.
Returning special guests? Those are the most special of the guests.
Because that means we didn't make them mad last time.
We may have, but they came back anyways.
Yeah, you never know. Please welcome back one of our favorite guests. It's queer surrealist theater writer, Hayley St.
Guess who's back again.
We're so happy to have you back, Haley. What have you been up to since we last talked?
Oh, since we last talked, which was Emoji Land, which was beginning of the year. Ooh, I don't know. I've had a few play readings. I've been just doing a lot of writing. I talked to Laura from Emoji Land fairly recently, which was really nice. She says hello and she enjoyed the episode very much. So that was nice. Yeah. I mean, I'm okay. I mean, it's Pride Month now, so like I'm pretty good. I mean, yeah, listen to a lot of Coldplay. That's all I really know how to do right now. But I'm here and couldn't be happier because we're doing
Your Twitter is Coldplay day and night, and I love it.
It is. But it's okay. I mean, it's theater too, but
I mean, it is. But I think you called this musical we're talking about today like the day after we finished recording Emoji Land.
yes, I did.
So why don't you introduce it? What are we talking about, Haley?
We're talking about William Finn's musical In Trousers.
All right, cue the music.
Because we're dreaming in trousers, laughing in trousers, playing in trousers, making music in trousers, making movies in trousers, fighting in trousers, singing and dancing and writing in trousers, people waiting in trousers, people crying in trousers, people living in trousers, people screwing in trousers, in trousers, in trousers.
So In Trousers is a musical with music, lyrics, and book by William Finn. It premiered originally off-Broadway in 1978 and mounted twice in 1979 at the Off-Broadway's Playwright's Horizon. And it was produced on and off for a while. It was opened at the Second Stage Theater in 1982. It was heavily panned every time it's been released. I don't think it deservedly so. And then in 1985, it was significantly rewritten, given it a more cohesive storyline and giving the wife Trina a name. And that opened on March 26th of that year, and it only ran for 16 performances. Plot of this musical is the one-act musical centers on Marvin, who has a wife and a child. He recalls the past relationships he shared with, among others, his high school sweetheart, and Miss Goldberg, his English teacher, who let him play Christopher Columbus in the school play, and then reveals he prefers to be with men. Torn between his natural inclination and his desire to not upset his family life he has known, Marvin ultimately makes the decision that feels best for him. All right, Haley, what is your history with this show?
Well, I first got into Falsettos, this is the prequel to. I first got into Falsettos when it opened on Broadway, the revival in 2016, because Christian Borle had just left my favorite show, Something Rotten, to go do Falsettos, which is a show I'd always wanted to see because I'm a big William Finn fan. He's a local. I'm from outside Boston, so is he. So I was very excited to finally get to know this show. I didn't really know much about it other than I knew it was about gay Jews. That's pretty much all I knew about it. And I saw it in previews when it was running, and I loved it and I cried and it was amazing. And then I found out that In Trousers was the prequel, and I was like, wait, I need to listen to this. So I went back and I listened, and I was like, what is this? This is so bizarre and very stream of consciousness, and maybe the most William Finn thing I've ever heard. I kind of love this. Can we do this show in repertory with Falsettos, please? And it's kind of been I'm in love with it ever since. I think it's a really, really cool, weird, fascinating little show. And in 2017, they did a panel at BroadwayCon where they reunited most of the original cast, and Bill Finn and Andre Bishop, who was running Playwright's Horizons at the time. And they just talked about the origins of the show and how it, became the cult classic that it is today. It's very beloved amongst the Falsettos fandom more than anything else.
Of course.
I find that interesting because while this isn't a part of Falsettos in and of itself, because that's considered the two acts that is this if we're talking Lord of the Rings language, is this the Similarian for the Falsettos world?
No, more like The Hobbit, really.
Okay. Right? Wouldn't this would be more of The Hobbit?
Yeah.
I mean, it feels like it's much shorter than the other two, and it's also very different in tone and style.
Yep.
I love this as its own thing. I don't love it as a prequel to Falsettos.
I'm one of those weirdos who likes to listen to the cast albums back to back, and just sort of let, the spirit take me, really, because it goes from from being like a very specific brand of neurotic to a completely different brand of neurotic to another completely different brand of neurotic in the span of 3 acts. And I just think that's really neat. I don't know. I think Bill is shockingly cohesive for, you know, a piece that was written 10 years before. This was 10 years before Falsetto, March of the Falsettos, which was 10 years before Falsetto Land. So it's just nice to see, like, it does feel very cohesive as like a 3-part.
I have to make a very dumb observation because Jess brought up Lord of the Rings. So
Okay.
There should be a version of this where there is the Silmarillion of it, and it's Wizard the Brown's origin story.
I mean, we'd love a Wizard origin story. I agree. I would love a Wizard origin story. Wizard's great.
But this is The Hobbit. It's Marvin, and then you get the Lord of the Rings, and then, you know, we got to have that backstory for Wizard Brown.
Wizard the Brown. He's like Radagast.
Yeah.
Radagast.
And because you made the joke in our original Falsettos episode, you said he will return as Wizard the White because you were convinced his name was Wizard.
I thought his name was Wizard the whole show. Oh my god.
I mean, he's pretty magical. We do give him credit for that because he changed everybody's lives.
Okay, sorry. Totally off topic. Just
No, I love
brought
it. I love it. I'm a big old nerd. I appreciate that. I appreciate that very much.
While we're on your weird tangent, Andrew, I do want to ask you, because you have only seen Falsettos as like one of our very first episodes of Musicals with Cheese, and I'd say it's the first one where we kind of figured out how we were going to make this thing work, and therefore...
I feel like I was probably too negative in that episode because I was still in an angry streak, but I don't think it was that bad, to be honest.
But I also find that fascinating because that was the first time like we hit with like cast members of the show. Like I remember Betsy Wolfe liked it and shared it. I remember one of our first reviews, it's actually from Anthony Rosenthal's mom, who wrote it under the name Tiffany Axelrod, which was the cutest thing. And she was like, I'm really glad you both like gave each other time to speak your mind. And I was like, that is the most adorable thing. But Andrew, now with like time to process Falsettos and In Trousers, what'd you think?
I don't know how to feel about In Trousers. It doesn't feel like it has a cohesive story, but I don't know if it is trying to do that or if it's just trying to be, as Hayley said, stream of consciousness, more just like, you know, songs about different events that are not necessarily telling a direct story.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I like Falsettos better in hindsight, but I don't think I disliked this. It is also very short, so it's an easy watch. I mean, it's not like you have to dedicate a lot of time for this or listen if you just want to listen to it. And the songs are very good, so I don't know.
The one consistent thing between all 3 of the Falsettos stories is Marvin is a huge jackass. Like,
I can't disagree with that.
He gets better.
There's an entire song about it in this.
Getting better. He's still not great.
He's not great, but he's... I mean, it's, as I say, I love following like each as like a part of a trilogy, really, because I do enjoy tracking how Marvin grows. My thing is because obviously there was only an original cast album and they never recorded any future casts. The original cast is Chip Zien, who is, you know, very famously also Mendel in Acts 2 and 3 of the Marvin trilogy. And so I remember like after, you know, first really getting into In Trousers and like giving it a long think, after, you know, being very obsessed with falsettos, giving it a long think, and I was like, is it me? Or is, what if the reason Chip played Marvin in Trousers, but Mendel in the rest of the trilogy is because In Trousers is just bizarre reenactment of Marvin's past as performed by Mendel in one of Marvin's therapy sessions.
I love it. I'm into that so much more.
And the thing is,
it would explain why there's no real story and it's just kind of wherever it wants to go.
I mean, I asked Chip about that at BroadwayCon, and he was like, yeah, no, that feels right. So like, it's, which, you know, coming from the original
officially canon, then
it's basically, which is kind of fun because it is so much stream of consciousness and very much like there are a little bit of plot inconsistencies between In Trousers and the rest of the trilogy, like small things about like Trina mentioning she has more than one kid, or Wizard likes to smoke in Trousers, but in Falsettos he doesn't do drugs. So like that's a specific lyric in so it's really interesting to see like these little inconsistencies is because Mendel doesn't fully understand his own patients. patient. So
I'm so into this. This is already repainting my entire view of In Trousers on
this is
Weather.
why I love In Trousers so much, because when you think about it as Mendel reenacting Marvin's like young adult life, the chaos makes sense because it's Mendel trying to process all this, not just Marvin. It's Mendel who is also Marvin, because Chip is the fucking greatest.
I remember Mendel being not likable.
Mendel's kind of, I mean, Mendel's probably, he's not very ethical for a psychiatrist,
No.
but he's still very
Doesn't he?
lovable.
He's sleeping with his patient's wife.
Yes, who is also
Yeah.
his patient.
Yeah, right. So he's actually sleeping with his own patient,
Yeah. Mendel is not
which
very
is
ethical.
incredibly unethical.
Yeah, he's very unethical, but he's also probably one of the closest things to a father figure that Jason gets. I mean, because he has three basically
come
father
on.
figures. but-
Whizzer Brown.
Whizzer, of course, but
Who
Mendel
taught him
too.
baseball?
Whizzer taught him baseball. Mendel gave him
Mendel-
advice about how to deal with his actual dad. So
Which is just everyone hates their parents.
his parents. It's true. Mendel's just, he's trying. He's trying. So as I said,
barely.
In Trousers is Mendel
Trying to get laid, maybe.
In Trousers is Mendel trying. I'm imagining like this hypnosis like thing he puts Marvin under, like, and then this is like
and this
what
is
we're
what
getting.
happens. But like my dream is that like they do the trilogy and repertory, and the actresses who play Trina, Dr. Charlotte and Cordelia play Trina, Miss Goldberg and the high school sweetheart. Like it's my dream. It's my actual dream for that to happen.
So
into
I
this.
think our audience is probably not at all aware of what's going on right now. So I think, Jess, you have all these notes. Can you explain to us what happens in Trousers?
I wish I could. I do want to talk
Well, you have
before.
all of these notes. I mean, I'm looking at this here.
I have a ton of notes, and a lot of them I've stolen from like other places and other people's analysis and kind of hodgepodge them into like different thoughts. I do want to say that it's not like all wholesale mine. It's just like this is interesting, and just throw it into a
Yeah,
note.
well, let's say
But before
you
that,
are
I do wanna
Marvin's
talk-
therapist. What happens?
I do want to talk briefly about what William Finn says about this, and how he basically says a lot of this was him learning to write a show, and figuring out the kind of songs that he wanted to write. It's about Marvin's education as well as his own. It's also been called like an impressionistic portrait of Marvin, which I kind of like that specific idea, but I'd much prefer Hayley's theory, which is much more fun and much more cohesive of what come. But
It's a good theory.
basically, correct me if I'm wrong of this interpretation. It's about Marvin who's like going through a lot of like he's about to come to a big change in his life, a big decision that's gonna basically throw a wrench in his entire reality, his living, which is like, I do not want to be a heterosexual family man anymore. I want to be the wholest version of myself, and yeah, it's gonna burn a lot of bridges familially and kind of ruin my relationship with my son, but I gotta be me. Every time it like approaches that, he jumps back to his version of himself at 14 where he dealt with another series of issues with his sexuality. And so that's like his coping mechanism, where he has to first deal with that before he can move on to that. And maybe that's an incorrect interpretation of what's going on.
I feel that, and now the more that I think about it, whenever Marvin regresses to his 14-year-old self, this is him experiencing compulsory heterosexuality, and as
Yes.
someone who like very much deals with compet every single day of their life, as you know, a lesbian who has a lot of favorite male celebrities, it's very much like, oh great. But now when I really think about it now, as someone who's like actually thinking about that every single day, thinking about how In Trousers handles that, it's actually kind of a really brilliant portrait of someone dealing with compulsory heterosexuality, and it's not like the traditional compulsory heterosexuality. Normally in like most media, from what I've seen, compet is usually it's lesbians dealing with compet. So seeing like a gay man dealing with compet and like, you know, his awkward relationship with his high school girlfriend, but also like, you know, his really bizarre obsession with his English teacher, like,
And Christopher Columbus as well.
yeah. He
Yes.
also, I mean,
At first I was thinking
Yeah.
maybe we should jump through each song, but now I kind of want to jump through each relationship because I feel like that's a much more fascinating way, and we can kind of hold the songs until the second half of this show. So Hayley, which relationship do you want to start with?
I mean, they're all really interesting. I mean, the big one obviously is Marvin and Trina, because that's the one that the whole trilogy focuses on.
Yes.
So that's like
Yes.
that's like the obvious big target here.
And it's interesting because the song that was later reused and integrated into the Falsettos musical, I'm breaking down, is used in quite a few versions of In Trousers, and they're effective
Yes.
in both ways. And if I were to make the trilogy, I'd still keep it there and make it a reprise. But no one asked me to reconstrue this. But I feel like Trina has the least say in this, as strange as that is. She has a lot of opinions and a lot of things that she's dealing with, but she's just kind of this woeful wife character here, and she isn't allowed to kind of given her say until the second two, which thank goodness she is, because she is such a full-fleshed person.
Because like here she's really just processing, like this is the very early stages of processing it, and she has very like immediate kind of harsh reactions, and she immediately like, doubles down on, wanting Marvin to like stay, because like she can't really cope with this fact. Then when we get to, March of the Falsettos, it's still a little that, but, she's a little more like, maybe, okay, I'm still very, and by, Falsetto Land, she's a lot more,
Zen with herself.
She's more zen with herself, yeah.
We also have to talk about, like, her relationship with, like, dependency. She is a very codependent person in this, very codependent in Falsettos, or March of the Falsettos, and Falsetto Land, and that leads her to self-destructive tendencies in both of those things, both self-harm and just, like, I just want to implode things.
Yep.
And even William Finn has gone on to say, like, that doesn't end after the end of Falsetto Land, which is tragic.
Yeah,
but I can
Yikes, that's what he said?
Yeah, I know. I remember at the In Trousers panel, if you get to watch it, Alison Fraser said that, like, in the initial, like, first early drafts of In Trousers, Trina doesn't survive the show, which is, like, really sad. Like, she's just so cannot deal with, this, and it's very heartbreaking for her, and as I said, she has a lot of self-destructive tendencies, but, like, in the original initial draft, like, she offed herself, and it was like, wow, okay, that's very, very, very dark.
Maybe a little too dark for this show,
because it's so whimsical, and I mean, it's very, it can be dark, but it's also kind of weirdly lighthearted too, because that's how Bill Finn writes. So
even his darkest stuff sounds like a bouncy feeling thing.
Yeah, it's kind of like Danny Elfman.
I've never heard a more apt comparison. My God.
Bill Finn is the Danny Elfman of musical theater.
Oh my God. But Trina here is this. She just wants normality. She also wants to be wanted in a way, because I never really quite comprehended that she had never known another man outside of Marvin until watching this, and I was like, no, that makes sense. And then when she ends up that, she immediately is told like he has syphilis and can never touch her, and that broke my heart for her and makes me understand where she's like, please just let things be normal, please. And
like love me for what I am.
Yeah. And then even her kid isn't giving her that comfort, because having kids is a weird experience and it's not going to be perfect every day. I don't know if you know this, kids, but having children is a pretty rough deal.
Yeah.
I guess.
If they're kids, they wouldn't know, but...
Yeah, well, the thing is, I appreciate this for not just showing the rosy-colored, man, our kids are magical, and it's the one thing that brings me joy. It's like, no, I wish it would bring me joy, but it's a job. And Trina experiences that very well, and Marvin shows up on the weekends and is like, I don't get it, kids are weird. And then Trina has to, like, figure out Jason, who doesn't even have a name in this.
Yeah.
There's so much stuff they elaborate on in Falsettos, it's just not here.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the thing here. I'm bringing all that into this and framing it through that lens, because I almost think Bill Finn wants you to do that. I'm curious how he feels about this, because this is like his baby photo, so to say, where it's like his first work.
Yeah.
Does he think it's aged well? Do you think, because I know at one point he hated it.
He hated the revisions that he did. At the panel, he talked a lot about how like the original, the one that's on the cast album, is his favorite version of the show, and the revisals were basically there just to please the critics, because it did actually get solid reviews. It was just a very, very limited run at Playwright's Horizons, because it's an experiment. I mean, at the time, Playwright's Horizons was very experimental, and they had never done musicals really before, so it was kind of like a test pilot, really. So like certain the only reason it got a cast recording is because like one critic really, really loved it and was like, I want to hear this music. So that's the only reason we even have a cast album.
Great music, and thank God for that. Let's talk about the next relationship between Marvin and his high school sweetheart. Very complex, very strange. Feel like, does he have a good relationship with any woman, really? Aside from Cordelia?
Doesn't seem
Dr.
like
Charlotte,
it.
not really.
Yeah.
It seems like he's more interested in Christopher Columbus than anything else.
But that's kind of the point in the end, especially with the monologue they give that is not on the album, but is spoken, and it kind of explains why that's such an important thing to Marvin.
Yeah.
And is basically crux of it. Every relationship is about control, and that comes the most ahead in the Miss Goldberg scenes, where it's not even about like attraction, it's the need for control, which is scary in a way. Content warning, possibly, we're going to talk about a scene that has been interpreted as rape and or child abuse. depending on the interpretation. If that's it's not pleasant to hear, maybe skip ahead about 3 minutes. All right.
All right, I'm skipping ahead here. 3 minutes, you said?
Yeah. We're not going to talk very long about this, but there is a discussion to be had about the Miss Goldberg sequence, which is dubbed the rape of Miss Goldberg, where Marvin basically berates and emotionally attacks and just tries to...
He just wants to take off her glasses, which is like...
Yes,
he's like,
but is that a metaphor for more?
It's a metaphor for more, because he just has this urge to just dominate his teacher, and like, I mean, he wants to know that taste of power, really, because he hasn't really had the power in any of his relationships, weirdly enough, because, you know, he's still figuring things out about himself, so, like, he, like, wants that control, so it's his teacher, and, I don't know, he really loves that she taught him about Christopher Columbus, so now he wants that power that Columbus had, so...
True.
And the being seen side of it, like the blockade, we all kind of have between our teachers and ourselves, which is a good thing, where we don't know their private lives and all that, and he just wants to invade that, to see into her eyes.
Yep.
And it's a horrifying idea in and of itself, and whether or not it's meant to be taken literally, I don't think anything in Bill Finn's writing is ever supposed to be taken literally.
Yeah, no.
But
he's a very metaphorical writer.
Does that frame Marvin differently in the Falsettos musical?
I don't know. I feel like Marvin's already seen as a controlling asshole in all three parts.
Yeah.
So I remember talking about that. He has like a scene with Whizzer where he's just being a dick to him for no reason.
Because he likes the control, he likes to win and all that.
He wants to win that chess game. He wants that control, even though Whizzer is very clearly better at it.
It's just, I don't know. He's just not a good person.
He just has a
and
lot
I know
of...
he grows a bit, but we end with him and he's still not a good person.
He's a very neurotic and toxic person, and he tends to like take it out on almost every relationship he's in. He's a very flawed person.
It should have been him, not Whizzer, is what I'm saying.
I don't really want to wish death on any Falsettos character because I love them all too much, but...
Well, Whizzer has already
I
died,
know.
so I'm just taking it away from him.
Take out the apple bombs.
Take out the apple bomb.
Oh, I was hoping I'd get a laugh out of that. Those who get it, get it.
Oh, you're gonna kill me with niche Falsettos references.
Oh, I love that show so much. But I really wanted to talk about that really uncomfortable subject. But also, there is the chance that we're supposed to take it literally, and there is eventually a sexual element between him and Ms. Goldberg, and maybe the rape in question is the statutory rape of Marvin. I don't know.
I don't even know. I mean, I don't even think they even really brought that up at the In Trousers panel. So
because I've been looking through the Tumblrs, and there is discussions there about that scene in many ways, where people are like, "Did Marvin rape her? Is he just taking her glasses?" And they're like, "No, it's metaphorical. No, it's a statutory rape of Marvin." I'm like, and someone asked Bill Finn. CM him on Facebook.
It's definitely not literal because no teacher wears sunglasses at all times. Like what?
I think Marvin would be a lot more even more emotionally damaged than he already is. Like, I mean, it would be very, very tragic, but...
I mean, a lot of that is meant to imply maybe that's part of the relationship issues that he has. There's so many different ways you can interpret this, and I'm not sure.
The thing is, in the libretto, it's the subtitle of the scene is a fantasy, which is better abstracted.
Okay.
So it's actually all in Marvin's head. It's all very metaphorical.
So
that's canon Bill Finn from 1993.
Oh my god, that's even more interesting. But then again, if this is all in Marvin's head because Mendel is putting like a hypnosis underneath it on him.
Mm-hmm. So that really helps with that theory.
I'm so into this. Please, like, all right, I'm imagining like we open the stage and we just have Marvin sit down in the psychiatrist chair and Mendel's like, "We're gonna try something new. Have you ever been hypnotized before?" And then blackout. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Marvin is a boy who has giddy seizures.
Exactly. And it's Brandon Uranowitz still playing both roles, because that's my dream. If they ever revive the show, I want Brandon Uranowitz to play, Chip's role again, because I feel like Brandon just would be perfect for In Trousers Marvin, because as much as I love Christian Borle, it's Chip, it's gotta be Brandon.
I'm imagining like a tether situation like we have in Spring Awakening, the Deaf West version, where you just have Christian Borle like, "What the fuck?"
Yep. Or even Michael Rupert. Actually, both Marvins.
Both Marvins. It'll also be a Legally Blonde reunion at the same time. It'll be great. And the Mandy Patinkin's just off in the wings.
I always forget Mandy was a Marvin.
He wasn't that great.
I know. I love Mandy, but
That's
you're
not
right.
the role for you. Speaking of not the role for you, we gotta compare our opinions to those of the New York theater critics. It's time for previews.
It's time for previews. It's time for previews.
I do want to point out before you start, Brie, this New York Times article came out in 1979 with the original, but it was not attributed to any critic.
Yeah, it's just New York Times.
The New York Times art section is
I'm
what this
wondering if
review
it
is
might have been
attributed
Frank
to.
Rich. I'm trying
No,
to think.
because
It wasn't
Frank Rich
had
said
left.
Wait, hold on. I think I got this backwards. No, Frank Rich did this first one, and then it was unattributed for the 81 production.
Yeah.
Apologies.
Yeah, no, Frank Rich was the original. Frank Rich has a long history with falsettos.
So this
I
is
don't
Frank
see-
Rich.
Is it? Okay, because I was going to say, I don't see a name on either of these. So it just says New York Times in Trousers is 18 songs and a few barely suggested sketches setting out the fantasies and worries of a 14-year-old boy named Marvin. Written, composed, and directed by William Finn and performed at the Playwright's Horizon is a bare germ of an idea. There is something attractive about its spareness. Performers range from fair to very good, and some of the songs are written with intelligence, if without much inspiration. But the germ is decidedly unwell. Marvin is the focus, and he won't do. Alternatively, depressed and self-approving is one of those young people to whom J.B. Priestley once said that nothing had ever happened to except that their parents were fond of them. Monument of self-absorbed immobility. He is mostly worried about sex, though breakfast comes into it too. The only fantasies that give him any real pleasure are homosexual ones. There is, for example, a long number about Columbus and a shipload of sailors afflicted with syphilis. He doesn't much like women, although at one point he imagines a kind of disembodied rape of his school teacher. Whatever genuine delight this situation may or may not offer, there remains the fact that most of the action is provided by three quite winning young women, and Marvin's lack of attention to them gives the whole performance fundamental tone of apathy.
It's just a rough misunderstanding of what's going on stage, to be honest.
Is it, though?
This is a show where I feel like it's very much a subjective piece and every person views it a little differently. It's like a Rorschach, I mean, not to go back to the psychology shit, but this is almost like a Rorschach painting of Marvin.
I mean, I guess. It's hard to... I'm still processing how anyone can really have these kind of very throwy-outy opinions about something that's so obviously not trying to be, like, feel-good musical. Like, halfway through this, you're like, oh, what? We're not focusing on the Goyles? Like, if that's your opinion, like, you're not here for the right reasons.
I mean, was that his opinion, though?
Feels like it. He's like, Marvin's shitty and I want to focus on the women.
Is he wrong in that fact, though?
I mean...
Marvin is shitty and the women are more interesting.
Yes, but it's also kind of not really about that as much. It's about Marvin's self-discovery, and the women are part of that, which is the
Exactly.
reason why they are given, like, very good, they're basically in every number, as much as probably more than Marvin is.
Yeah, because like most of the girls get solos for the most part. Marvin is in like a lot of group numbers and like gets a handful of solos too, but like it's so much an ensemble show for a 4-person musical.
And
I don't know. On some level, I have to agree that Marvin is just unlikable, and the fact that there is so many shows about him is a little frustrating.
But Marvin's a wrecking
He's just
ball.
a genuinely unlikable character.
I see it like this. Marvin is a wrecking ball kind of tossing through life, and the people in its wake are very interesting, but Marvin's still the tornado that's coming through the town, and you're still there to watch the tornado.
Yeah, but it's like a villain-focused piece. I don't know.
I wouldn't even call him a villain. He's just...
He's kind of an anti-hero.
Yeah.
An anti-hero would imply I want him to succeed, but I genuinely don't.
I don't know. I've always been weirdly empathetic towards Marvin. I have a lot of like very personal reasons because I mean the first time I saw the show I did see a lot of myself in how Christian Borle played the role. I don't know.
But I remember when Andrew and I first talked about falsettos, he was like, I got so mad that Whizzer went back with Marvin. Whizzer, you could do better, my dude.
I don't like Marvin. I don't know.
And that's totally okay.
But I still sympathize and empathize with him is the thing. Like, when Whizzer dies at the end of Falsetto Land, I am in tears just as much as Marvin is. Maybe it's because like I want.
Oh,
the
you
lost
don't get
time and
sad
all that.
because of Marvin, though. You get sad because you liked Wizard.
I mean, I get sad because I was rooting for them to actually turn their relationship around. Because first act, I'm like, yeah, no, this is very toxic. They need to solve their problems. And then by act 2, they're back together. Their things are kind of working out. And then, I just get mad about how Reagan handled everything in the 80s. So...
I also want to address a little bit, just like Marvin was getting better, like actively. You saw attitudes that were big problems in the first part of Falsettos that he is pointing out and acting more rationally towards, both being a father and losing at games and all that. They make a point to show you improvement there, too. It's not like perfect improvement. He's not like a model citizen yet, but
he's a flawed human
Yes,
being.
though you are talking about Falsettos right now, and this review is of In Trousers, and in Trousers, he does not make any improvements to himself.
Because this is him
That
still
is also
figuring
fair.
things out.
Yes, so I'm saying I agree with this review of In Trousers.
all right. Let's jump in a time machine a few years to 1981.
For the first revisal.
Yes, so the New York Times said of the 1981 production, In Trousers, the musical at the second stage, the parts are better than the whole. In most musicals that don't work, the parts are usually better than the whole, of course. But In Trousers is original enough to make you wish that the gap between what is and what might have been wasn't so large as it is. William Finn, the composer, has tried to tell a story almost entirely in song. If he had not been so precious, he would have succeeded. In Trousers, the title is Precious too, is
does that mean?
What?
What does that mean, so precious?
Like, it's
Are they
like, oh,
calling-
you're just trying to be cute.
People find a lot of Bill Finn stuff weirdly twee, and I'm like, I mean,
Wonder why. The only one I can see seeing that is maybe Spelling,
Spelling
Bee.
Bee.
But
And even then, that's mostly on the book, because the book is very cute and funny, and then the score is actually very, rangy and intense.
the I Love You song hurts me more than anything in Dear Evan Hansen. I mean, in a good way.
Felt that. Anyway, back to the New York Times.
Back to the review.
All right, so In Trousers, the title is Precious too, is about Marvin and the women in his life. His wife, his teacher, and his high school sweetheart. Sometimes we see Marvin as a small boy with temper tantrums. Sometimes we see him as a grown man with night sweats. Mostly he is temper tantruming and sweating about sex. Is he hetero, homo, or bi? For whether Mr. Finn likes it or not, our eyes are drawn to the women and not to Marvin. Marvin is a nebbish. He is good-humored enough, but not intelligent enough, and because he lives almost entirely within himself, he is not going to be of much concern to us.
The same review.
I disagree with this the same way I disagreed with the first one. Like,
Me too.
I mean, I feel like if we're gonna do like a self-portrait in a way, like let's say this is a representation of Marvin's self, the people around us are always much more interesting than we think we are.
Well, I mean,
I
if
find
you're
all of
looking
you
at
much
it
more interesting than I think myself.
as like the self-reflective sort of identification where it's like you are what other people think you are, I guess. But I don't think that's quite what they're doing here. I think it is very much a piece about who Marvin is with the people around him in his life, and he's the focus. So I don't know.
Very interesting things to think about, I will say that.
We never really get to hear in the show what the other women necessarily think of Marvin, except for the wife. We get to hear what the wife thinks of Marvin, and she doesn't think very well of him. But we don't get to hear like what the school teacher really thinks of him, or his high school sweetheart really thinks of him, I don't think. So I don't know if it's like I don't know. I kind of agree that I don't like Marvin enough to love this show, but I do like the music enough to like this show. So
I don't know. I still like it. I'm gonna listen to my vinyl a bunch, but you say you like the music. How about we go into a mid-show and then we talk about some of that music, Andrew? How's that sound to
I'm
you?
down with that.
Sounds good to
I'm
me.
down with that.
Hey guys, sorry to interrupt you in the middle of the show, but we've got a show at you. Today's show is brought to you by the extremely kind donations by our donors over at Patreon. Andrew, who's over at Patreon?
Oh boy. Well, our current patrons are Terry Needleman, John Donna, Light Knackles, Danielle Renix, Jess the Stampede, Ewan Cassidy Teskier, Fire September, Monica Thoreau, Mina Maneri, Brent Black, Haley Murray, B-Way Flicks, Nathaniel Stacy Coombe, Joseph Evans Green, Carrie Ahern, Mary Lou Choquette, John Vanals, Heck You I Go by Elijah Now, Russ Walker, Musical Hell, Emily Gracie, Andrew Van Barson, To Blam, Kyle Summers. I swear he's adding more A's with the Barson. Janae C, Christina Francis, Scoot in the Technicolor Dreamcoat, Liz Lim, Corey Wilmarth, Allison Stuller, Nothing is Certain Except Beth in Taxes, John Vanals, Thespian, Ren Cullen, Wait in the Wings, Spectacle Machine, Jacob Stroop, Rafael Martinez Celez, Robert Benjamin, Rachel T, Jessica T, Genevieve Hartnett, Cass. Do I say that next part?
No, it's an emoji. It just doesn't transfer from the CSV.
Gotcha. Cass, Mitchell Young, Chai Teacup, Hayden Wilder, Katie McDonough, Stacass, Timothy Keys, Jeffrey Machado, Hughes, Toon Van Essen, Jesse Taylor, R. Elliott, Chris Mark, Alexandria Seng, Mimu, Kiji Marie Takio. I'm sorry, that's a new one. Trevor Lopez and Sierra Moncrief.
It's not like we've been doing this for like over 140 episodes, but it seems to
I'm just really good at reading names. I'm sorry.
But these wonderful people give us a little financial support that helps keep the lights on here at Musical Cheese, helps us keep Bree employed, helps us keep getting wonderful guests like Hayley. In fact, if you donate to us any dollar amount on Patreon, you can see Hayley's face right now, and they're doing backflips. They're dancing. You're missing out if you're not on Patreon.
Am I? You just have to pay to find out.
Exactly.
It's the only way you'll know what they're doing.
Hayley, can I get you to say, hey, you should join the Patreon right into the microphone?
Hey, you should join the Patreon.
I got him to say it. I did it.
You get every guest to say that. I don't know how you do it.
No one has said no yet. It's great. One day it's going to be like, no, I'm not going to do that. Also, you're going to get a bunch of like raw video files of me and Andrew acting goofy. Tons of commentaries, a lot of stuff that you're not getting usually. We're going to get back to the TV show, hopefully, but that was a really rough for Andrew to get to. So me and Bria are going to do some fun things in the future. Hopefully we'll get some guests. Also, next month we're going to have our Patreon meetup. You can see us in person. You can hang out, play Jackbox games with us. You know, really, we give you your money's worth over at Patreon. So you should join us. All right,
let's
ready
talk
to get
about the music. Yeah,
ready to get
let's
back
talk
into
about
those trousers?
Yeah, let's get in the trousers. I'm wearing trousers right now.
One, two, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Marvin is a boy who has giddy seizures. He's laughing all the time. Marvin is a boy who has giddy seizures. Sometimes they're fatal. When he turns upside down like a ladle pouring soup, he's a veritable fool. Marvin is my very best friend in school. It's me and Marvin. Lately I've been thinking maybe Marvin needs attention of a private sort. Maybe this whole seizure thing is something he invented, or is it medicinal? Should his mother be blamed? Marvin has something which most everybody needs. He cannot ever be embarrassed. Marvin is my very best friend in school, and I'm embarrassed and ashamed.
All right, so let's talk about the opening number, Marvin's Giddy Seizures.
Sure.
I'm confused by the idea of like the seizure idea. Is it like, does he literally have epilepsy?
I'm not sure. I think it's kind of Bill Finn's weird way of saying that he has these like sort of, these little meltdowns whenever he's like, excited or confused or horny or whatever. He just has a feeling, and he just, Marvin is all Bill Finn characters are neurodivergent. I asked him myself, and he said yes. And I can vouch that. I've met him, as I said. I have my signed copy of the script right here. I asked him that after he signed this. So, if anything, knowing me, how I've always had Kid and Marvin as being somewhere on the autism spectrum, he could very well just be having, a meltdown, or, this.
So, not literal seizures, but it's metaphorical.
It's a way of, that's, Bill Finn's way of kind of like explaining it, and like, a way maybe people who aren't neurodivergent understand. I don't know.
It's another way of just saying he's having temper tantrums, so to say. But I guess, I think it's like the more physical side of temper tantrums.
Yeah, because he tends to be very physical and lash out at people, so like kind of what he's implying ish.
And as a note here that I've stolen from someone else, like apparently it's not a specific idea, it's just like it's not a specific seizure, it's just a general embodiment of being a 14-year-old.
Yeah I remember when I was 14 and I would just be very dramatic about shit.
I don't know, Andrew, was I dramatic about shit at 14? You were there.
Well, you told me you were 30 at the time, so
so that is me being pretty dramatic about shit. You're right. Let's talk about how the body falls apart next.
The baby is crying on the swings that the oldest is kicking ass. The parakeet hasn't moved its wings yet. All good things come to pass. I think of sunshine and roses in bloom. But you're off sitting with another someone in another room. That's alright, dear. You go on digging your grave, dear. I didn't know that you were lonely. I thought you'd agree. But when I saw your lips, I knew they didn't belong to me.
Which is the first song from Trina, or in some productions just called The Wife. It's about how fleeting life is, perhaps.
Yeah, it's all metaphorical.
Things we most depend on seem to fail us in the end, which is a resonant theme altogether throughout the entire show, which is just like, especially with these women, where it's like, especially Trina, like, I thought I could rely on you, and then you just kind of run off a friend. I want a tight-knit family. Come on.
Because one thing that everybody should know is that the cast album is only the track order, the song list order from the original production at Playwright's Horizons. Every revisal since changes the order of songs, adds new songs, drops other songs. So we are just going off the Playwright's Horizons production.
Yes, we are.
The both published librettos that I own, which are, separated by about like 5 or 6 years, they do not have the same track list whatsoever. So it's always been tricky for me to, and I've never seen the filmed like college production that's on YouTube. So I, shockingly, as much as I love this show, I have never actually seen a full production of it. I just kind of take everything from osmosis, but it's mostly because I just listen to the cast album over and over.
Let me say, as someone that recently watched the college video production, it doesn't help you any more than a libretto. Having any visuals.
The visuals that they do don't really tell you anything more.
There's a slide and they go down the slide sometimes. That's about it.
That's just in that production.
Yeah.
There's one actress that wears sunglasses a lot. There you go.
That's the most, you get that from a libretto, though.
Yes, it's in the libretto. It's literally in the character description.
So, I feel like there's so much that you could do theatrically to have different interpretations of this musical that it doesn't matter exactly how one production does it, because another production can do it differently. But yeah, it is good to note that we are using the Playwright's Horizon order.
Yes.
Let's talk about Set Those Sails. And I guess that might be, oh my God, she's so good.
Sorry, I just
so
really
incredible.
Love Mary Testa.
Hey, I love you, set those sails. Good man never fails. Hey, I love you, set those sails. A good man never fails.
It's all about like the discovery that the world is round, which is also just another way of discovering like, hey, the world is much bigger than you expected, like big metaphor type stuff. Christopher Columbus. I think this is the first time like we really dive into the Christopher Columbus metaphor, which I guess would make this the I Want song for Marvin, as close as we're getting, at least in a way.
There really isn't one.
Yeah. he gets one in Falsettos, but not in Trousers. If anything, the women kind of get theirs. And anything, it's not really an I Want song so much as like kind of his mission statement. Like it's his mission statement has been given to him by his teacher. Like
okay,
he's
that is
inspired.
A much better way.
It's almost like a musical version of maybe the lecture she gave about Christopher Columbus. Like that's really what it is.
Yeah.
But with like extra riffing.
But also he kind of goes against this mantra by the end, and because it's like live and learn to attack because a good man never fails. Marvin is decidedly not either of those things. He doesn't stick by those by the end.
Nope.
He fails a lot. But the song is gorgeous.
The song is so good.
Well, a good man never fails, but
Marvin isn't quite a good person. He's trying to be, but he's not he's not good at it right now.
One plot song that I kind of want, as much plot as you can have in this is I Am Wearing a Hat, Trina's song of their marriage, getting married and all that.
I am wearing a hat. After winter I'll marry. I'm entitled to that. I wear a hat. I wear a hat.
correct me if I'm wrong, isn't it a Jewish tradition to wear weddings? If you're...
Normally, I haven't been to any Jewish weddings? I'm Jewish, so I should know this.
Typically you wear a hat.
Yeah, typically
men wear yarmulkes.
Yes, men do
yeah,
wear
but women
yarmulkes.
wear the larger hats. If I'm trying to remember Fiddler
I know
or something.
nothing about
the Jewish weddings
weddings.
I've been to, no women have worn a hat.
Okay, because I was wondering if that was a thing related to weddings, the reference to wearing hats.
The hat could be
That's a
metaphorical
no.
too. The hat could be, this sort of obligation to, be in this relationship. I don't know.
Maybe she's just wearing a hat. Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar,
Sometimes you just have to finish the hat.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the most I was getting out of this. Is this a reference to that? Probably not.
But it also shows that she...
Same theater too.
Point.
This came first.
But it also
So which one's referencing what?
Oh my God, you're right.
The Bill Finn to Sondheim pipeline.
Wait, okay. Have they ever spoken in a panel before? Have they ever been seen in the same room together, talking?
Oh man.
Are they the same person? Is that what
No,
you're
I'm not
implying? I feel
suggesting
like
that.
no.
Bill Finn
No,
is
no.
Stephen Sondheim's very specific neurodivergent Jewish urges. Sondheim is also Jewish. It's just
Yes.
Bill Finn is
Falsettos is very Jewish.
Falsettos is a very it's probably the show that I'm, as a Jew who loves musical theater, tends to I don't love gatekeeping, but I'm very protective of Falsettos because it's probably the truest depiction of modern Jews I've ever seen in a musical, other than say Fiddler. But Fiddler is very much traditional, traditional Jews, and Falsettos is very much modern Jewish culture for the most part. And when people are like, oh no, it's actually kind of they're all stereotypes, I'm like, you don't realize Bill Finn is Jewish and he wrote this based on his own kind of experiences.
All right, we got to talk about Whizzer going down.
He hates my wife. I hate his food. He thinks I'm rude but nice. I think he's nice but indiscreet. He thinks I'm sweet, but he treats me kind of funny. I say, Whizzer, Whizzer Brown. I see Whizzer going down. Oh, Whizzer, Whizzer Brown, isn't it delightful playing easy? Yes, Whizzer, Whizzer Brown, I care. I found your door. We sing out more and more and more and more and more now. He rubs my neck, I rub his thigh. He asks me why I sweat. I ask him why he bites his nails. And then he takes me in his arms, and then he lights another cigarette. I say, Whizzer, Whizzer Brown, I see Whizzer going down.
Yes, my favorite, the infamous Chip Zien didn't realize that when Whizzer Going Down was not about, he didn't realize it was about Whizzer and Marvin having sex. He thought that Whizzer was going down to Florida, because Chip Zien is hilarious. But he always brings that up at any opportunity he can if someone asks him about In Trousers. That's his favorite story. But it's the song that really we get the first inkling of Marvin and Whizzer's relationship at this point, very early on, and they're very much just here to just have a lot of sex, and
I just want to know where they found the name Whizzer.
I'm trying to remember. I feel like Bill Finn maybe got the name. I think he talked about it in the panel. He took it from the name of some person who was in the news at the time, who may have been a politician or something, who his nickname was Whizzer and he liked the name, so he took it. That's what I think what happened.
I actually think I remember when the movie version of Falsetto, the 2016
the Pro Shot
production. Yeah, him and James Lapine did talk after the premiere, and they're like, "Why Whizzer?" He's like, "I don't know. It's a funny name."
That's a very good Bill Finn impersonation.
It's certainly funny. I feel like the first time someone hears it, they might not understand that they're talking about a person, because it's Whizzer? What?
Bill Finn characters tend to have funny names. There's normal names, then you just pull out oh hey, it's Whizzer, or I don't know, you got freaking Leaf Coney Bear, which is it's great. It's also a punny name. I don't know, just Bill Finn likes to have characters with fun names. It's kind of just part of his charm.
There's Rhoda from A New Brain, which is one of those weird names that sticks out of my head, and it's there's so many normal normal names in that, and then just Rhoda.
Rhoda, like, I mean, the weird last names too. Like, isn't like the guy for because I haven't actually ever seen. I've only listened to A New Brain. I've never seen it, but the main character, his boyfriend his last name is Deli Bovey, which is a very funny last name.
And Mendel's name
is
Mendel
Weisenbachfeld.
In the 2016
version.
That is great.
What?
Bill Finn likes funny names. That's really he's just one of those writers. It's just one of his eccentricities, which we love.
But he's also very critical of his own work. Like, even in that same interview I brought up where he's like, what's just a funny name? The entire time he's just shitting on, like, the first act of Falsettos. He's like, it's not as good as the second half. I don't like it. And James Lapine's like, it's good. He's like, no, it isn't.
Bill and James have such a great rapport, and that's why I'm happy they've worked together so many times. They're great.
I think the only
You
collaboration...
gotta criticize your own work.
I mean, yeah, but not like... I think...
If you don't criticize your own work, you're not an artist.
I
You know?
agree.
That's the artist brain.
I criticize my plays all the time. Like, that's all I do is, like, I go back like, nah, this isn't great. And as a reading, everyone's like, telling me, oh, it's so great. I'm like, no, it's not. What are you talking about?
I agree, but I've talked to a lot of people that have worked under Bill Finn and, like, been educated by Bill Finn, and he is very quick criticism on everything, including his own work. He is a very harsh teacher, and that is a good thing and also terrifying.
Terrifying is the best way to describe Bill Finn. I've met him a handful of times, and he is kind, but also probably the most terrifying person I have ever met in the best way.
I see him like on like in pictures, and I'm like, you look like this big goofy guy. Why are you so scary?
He's great. He's great. He's just. I mean, I just think
he's only scary if he's trying to help you.
He's a fascinating man, and I'm just glad that he's still writing shows. He's terrifying, but he's a genius.
In the most proper way of genius, I agree. Andrew, what did you think of Wizard going down? Did you think it was about going to Florida?
Who do I look like?
You look like a guy that didn't know the last 5 years was going in timeline reverse.
Going in reverse and going down are two very different things.
One's 69ing.
69, dudes. Yeah, no, I did not.
The last 5 years.
I did not think that he was going to Florida. You know, mostly because no one would ever want to go to Florida. Okay, duh.
It's not safe
He's going to Georgia.
Queer in Florida. Good point.
Ooh.
It's not safe to be in Florida. The whole place is made of alligators.
Yep. Alligators and people who won't vaccinate.
Very true.
My God.
My uncle lives in Florida. Apparently, he's got COVID twice. So.
Oh, no.
Oh no. I didn't know you could do that.
I know people who have gotten
You can
COVID.
in Florida.
No, I know people who've gotten COVID more than once. They've also had like long COVID. Yeah, where just the symptoms just keep recurring even after it's gone.
Breaks my heart hearing about that because I've seen one of my very close friends get really messed by it, and it breaks my heart. I'm like, I wouldn't want anyone to go through that once, let alone multiple times. My gosh. Let's talk about the final number, the dream sequence in Trousers, where the show gets its title from. I don't get it, but I love this song.
Four young ladies sat around and said they'd never lose their love. And then they lost their love. 5 good men in trousers banged a table when they'd found their voice. It was a lady's choice. The women sat demure and whistled through their teeth. They gave directions underneath on legs and knees. These 4 young ladies sat around and said they'd never lose their love. And then they lost their love. Jessie wore a bonnet, May a sash without a dash of charm. And Sis read Commonweal. Bet was nervous and she picked a scab from someone else's arm. Then Jessie blew her meal. They had a laugh, these women laughed their very best. The men in trousers aren't impressed, or else they're lazy. 4 young ladies sat around and said they'd never lose their love. 4 young ladies sat around and said they'd never lose their love. 4 young ladies sat around and said they'd never lose their love. And then they lost their love.
It's a great song, but I don't even think Bill knows what the fuck it's about.
I don't understand what in trousers mean.
They're just, I mean, I'm trying to remember. I feel like there was a really good Tumblr post that like someone posted about that they really like went into everything.
Y'all ready for it? I think I found that Tumblr post and I've got notes from it. All right.
Didn't
so
they say at the beginning, they sang in trousers at the beginning, or was that only the version I watched?
That's only the version we watched. That was not on the album.
Okay.
That was the only real big difference between the albums, aside from maybe order, to be honest. But some thoughts that they have on the internet is the trousers represents the facades we wear in order to conform to our preconceptions of social expectations. Everyone is living in trousers instead of their most natural life. I guess.
I feel like that's a really easy thing to say. We already have words for that, like wearing masks. I mean, I don't know.
What's trousers but a mask for your dick?
That is not what trousers are, okay? We can do better. There's 4 things here I can steal.
all
We
right.
could do better.
I'll try the next one, all right? Here's second pitch. Pitch number 2. The song is looking from women's perspectives, whereas the whole show has been sort of from Marvin's perspective, or at least looking at the effect of events on him. The song talks about how choices of men within relationships impact women more than men, because society is patriarchal. Maybe, like, women sit like angels, men sit like vultures. It's a trifle crude. There's an argument
I
there.
love that lyric.
It's gorgeous.
I love that lyric.
But also, like, that doesn't quite hit as hard as I'm tired of all the happy men who rule the world.
It's a lot more abstract. Like as the further pieces in the trilogy get a lot more to the point, and this one's a lot more dreamlike, poetic logic.
I like this interpretation of the trousers better than the first one. But let's see. We can do better.
We got 2 more. All right, here's another one. Everyone is trying to impress others to get love from others using any means they can. And in doing so, often at the expense of being true to themselves and their own well-being. But still, people don't get the things they want and need. They still lose their love eventually. And then you lost your love.
I like that too.
So
that's a dark
yeah.
foreshadowing for Whizzer, I guess.
Oh yeah.
Does that explain what the trousers mean, though? It explains what the song means. I don't know if it explains what the trousers mean, though.
I don't think the trousers are just a good like representation of the overall mask.
Yeah. The mask for the
and then-
masculinity and the struggle with the masculinity. Because even then that becomes a thing in March of the Falsettos into Falsetto Land is about how, the men in this story, are they really acting like men or are they acting like little boys? And this is like, these are like, this is Marvin when he himself was a little boy. And then, the evolution and then the evolution. So basically, each 3 parts is Marvin as a boy, Marvin as, a younger man, and then Marvin, as a full adult, reaching his, yes, I finally sort of have become my true self-ish. I don't know.
A trouser.
A trouser.
I have decided to become a trouser. Joker meme. I'm going to become a trouser.
Form.
Put me on.
I'm going to become Cruella de Vil.
No, she makes trousers.
Yes, yes, she does.
And then she lost her love. All right. The need for love is central. Marvin needs love. So do the ladies and the men. None get it the way they want. And there are always costs. I don't know. That one feels the most flimsy to me. Out of all these, I believe that one the least.
Yeah. I like the second one.
Me too.
And the third one.
Me too.
I think I'm going to roll with those. And the trousers, they don't mean anything. It's just...
A cool name.
Yeah, see, there you go.
Yeah, it's also like a nice, catchy lyric. The fact that it's a constant, repeated refrain throughout the song.
I'm trying to imagine, because you've done a pitch now that I'm just so convinced needs to happen, of the trilogy being put together and this being represented as a fantasy sequence, and then as he repeats, like, living in trousers, down in trousers, and then the voice of Brendan Uranowitz fades out, and it just becomes Christian Borle, like, living in trousers, down in trousers.
And then it immediately black out, and then we start with Ford Juice. It's just act break, open on Ford Juice. It's just...
Like, literally, that's the transition between Marvin's, and then as soon as there's the transition, like, it's just Marvin alone, like, now wearing trousers. Like, at that point, he'd only wear shorts up to that point.
Because
and
he's
then
a little kid, yeah.
And then just lights up, and then suddenly there's the other Jews, and they're in a room bitching. No break. I would say not even a blackout. Just go right into it. Like, he's woken up, like...
Oh, do we want
and
to
then
do this
they're
like...
there.
Do we want to do this like National Theater Follies, where it's just, the entire 5.5 hours of intro of the Marvin trilogy in one go? Because I I'd do that. I would hold my bladder for that.
I say we need to do that, and I don't think it's 5.5 hours. It's got to be like 3 or under 3. I think it's.
I was
just
including
under 3.
act breaks initially, but I'm sure I made a tweet about that. I made a Tumblr post about that years ago because I go through my post. Yeah, I literally said 3-act, 5.5 hour long production of the complete Marvin trilogy. I think that was before I actually got the libretto and assumed that it was a full length musical. I'm not good at math.
I'm willing to bet like that doesn't matter in playwriting.
No, it really doesn't. I mean,
what Act 4 comes
matters
after Act
sometimes.
3? Oh no!
I mean, I don't know. I never know when to actually add an act break. I write things. I'm like, oh, it's just gonna be one really long full length, or one long one act, and it's like, no, actually, this needs to be 2 acts. I'm like, but I need to write a third part. Oh no! And then it just keeps, you keep writing the same shows with the same characters. That's what I do. Not always, but
I love this analysis. This was such a fun show to talk about.
I agree.
All right, guys, what's your overall thoughts on In Trousers and our cheese rating? Hayley, you want to go first?
Yeah, I mean, I'm considering the entire Marvin trilogy as a whole.
Yes.
For me, I'd probably go with, like some, nice like chive cream cheese on like lox on like a bagel. Like this show is very much, the quintessential neurotic Jewish experience, the entire trilogy, really. But it's specifically a rainbow bagel because it's Pride Month.
That's great. And
That's fair,
this
that's
is
fair.
like for Pride Month, we're doing like a bunch of Pride shows. Yeah, Pride Month!
Pride Month!
We didn't
we
mention
should've
it at the
said that at
top.
the
We should have.
Yeah. So yeah, I'd say
Whoops.
the Marvin trilogy by William Finn is chive cream cheese on a bagel with lox, and the bagel is a rainbow bagel. Yeah.
Brilliant.
It's delicious.
I love it. Man, now I want a bagel. All right, Andrew, you're up.
All right. Well, it's a short show that is kind of all over the place, intentionally so. The music is very fun though. It's boppy, and I don't know. I think Marvin as a character isn't the most likable, but that's the case for a lot of shows. So, and he's more likable than some other characters I can think of, Dear Evan Hansen style.
Actually a better representation of neurodivergence than Dear Evan Hansen, because
Well, at least
it's
with
actually
Marvin,
text.
in Marvin's case, it's in the text, yeah. Whereas
Dear Evan Hansen, they just kind of like, yeah, it's representation, totally.
yeah,
We never meet
that-
one of my biggest problems with Dear Evan Hansen is we never meet Evan's psychiatrist ever, and that's I think one of the biggest flaws in that show. One of the biggest plot holes is if Evan's psychiatrist stepped in, none of that shit would have happened.
Agreed. Me and Andrew just recorded a video that I'll post this upcoming Friday on it, and we had an entire rant about because people came to us and were like, but it's representation of autism, so you can't make fun of it. I'm like, A, no, that's not how that works.
It's not
B,
in the text.
It's not in the text. And C, if you're claiming that excuses his behavior, that's a horrible way to represent autism in your own mind that I
ableist
hate.
as hell.
Yeah, you don't get to just be like, well, they're a bad person, but autism.
Yeah,
like, no,
we got
no.
a lot of messages like that after our episode dropped originally, and I'm like, no, are you?
No, that's bad. That's bad.
I don't know. I feel like
Here, and that's a big yikes.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm neurodivergent, but as someone, I don't like hearing that. It made me upset physically to hear that.
Yeah, but not related to this show.
Yes.
This show is short. I think you should give it a listen. Especially if you liked Falsettos, you should definitely give it a listen if you have not. And even if you didn't like Falsettos, maybe it's short. It's like an hour 20 minutes. I mean, give it a listen.
I will say it's closer to Bill Finn's other work, like A New Brain, than it is to Falsetto. So if you like A New Brain but you don't like Falsettos, you'll probably attach to this too.
Okay, that's fair. I'm gonna give it Gorgonzola because in the Wallace and Gromit episode "The Wrong Trousers," Wallace says that he likes Gorgonzola.
Perfect. Andrew, I'm really proud of you. That's a great cheese rating.
That
You've been
was
slacking
really good,
lately.
Andrew.
Oh, thank you.
Put a little star next to that one for him.
Juliet, put a star next to that. It's great. All right, Bree, what did you think of our discussion and your cheese rating?
Ooh, so I didn't know that there was a prequel to Falsettos. So this episode was very informative for me. I learned a lot. Cheese rating, I'll give it mozzarella sticks because mozzarella sticks come before dinner, and this comes before Falsettos.
Brilliant. You know what? I'm into that. That's a great answer. I loved In Trousers. I loved it when I heard it as an album. I love it after I saw how it was performed. I really, really enjoy this. It's one of those things where I'll just turn it on and it'll just go by like a snap, and I'll be like, ooh, what happened? In the same way that Falsettos is that way for me when that first came out. Felt like returning to some old friends, to be honest. And that friend being Bill Finn in and of itself. My cheese isn't particularly a cheese, but it is an outfit. I am gonna share my screen for a moment.
Oh
here.
boy.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna have these cheese trousers, because living in trousers.
Are those trousers?
They're trousers. And then you're gonna also wear this cheese hat with it, because I am wearing a hat. And
I mean,
Literally.
you probably could have just given it the cheese hat because that's like a thing.
And you know what? If I'm taking it too literally and it's making you all upset, like, oh, you cheated, Jess. You know what? I'm just
You
gonna
did
give it
cheat,
some
Jess.
fine cheese from Goldberg's Fine Foods, because that's why I like to think Miss Goldberg did it after she decided to stop being a teacher. Just decided to run a cheesery.
Put her sunglasses on, went in, made some cheese.
Yep. Sunglasses back on, never came off again, never pestered by another 14-year-old, living her best life.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
As
yeah.
Mary Testa deserves.
Cheese time.
Exactly. Mary Testa, if you're out there, you're amazing. You know who else is amazing? Hayley St. James. Thank you for joining us, Hayley.
Oh, it's my pleasure as always. I love being here. It's a great time.
You're a wonderful guest. Promote all the wonderful things you do.
Ooh, okay. Well, if you follow me on Twitter at Hayley St. James, my most recent reading of one of my plays, actually starring myself, is in my pinned, so that's fun. And then on top of that, I just officially can announce that at the end of June, I am one of my Zoom plays is being produced as part of the Rainy Day Artistic Collective Pride Festival virtually. I don't know where it's exactly streaming, but at the end of June, that's happening, and that's fun. Also, I am currently dramaturging a production of SpongeBob the Musical in the Boston area, so that's happening at the end of July, and that's going to be a fun time. Yeah. Also, a stream higher power by Coldplay.
Yes.
Anything for my boys.
I will say Hayley has the best Twitter, like the best theater Twitter, but also if you love Coldplay, the best Coldplay Twitter.
I'm gonna write
Somebody's
a
gotta
jukebox
do it.
musical, I swear to God.
Well, make it better than Jagged Little Pill, please.
Oh, I will. The whole cast will be trans. It'll be great.
Finally. You know what else is great, Andrew? Mm-hmm. Our wonderful
Our
patrons. There we go. Thank you guys for listening. Please follow us on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher at Musicals with Cheese. We're on Twitter at Cheesy Musicals. Our Patreon is Musicals with Cheese. Instagram Musicals with Cheese. YouTube page Musicals with Cheese. We have a Patreon-only podcast called Patreon with Cheese. Our email is musicaltheaterlives@gmail.com. Our title card was created by the amazing Jolene Casco. Go send her some love at Jolene Casco on Instagram. Our keeper of the cheese is Juliet Antonio. This show is produced by the incredible, the wonderful, one of my best friends in the whole world, Brianna Jones.
You hyped me up this week. I
You
love
bet your
it.
ass I did. I always hype you up. Come on.
Except for last week. It's okay.
I
though.
couldn't talk last week, if you want the honest answer.
I know. I felt so bad.
Thank you to the Broadway Podcast Network for having us on the platform and for not kicking us off yet for, shit talking Dear Evan Hansen with Cast of Great Comet. I know that's biased, but fuck, it's fun.
Wait, y'all did that? Wait, y'all literally had a 2017 beef and I wasn't there?
We did. We had Pearl Ryan on and we just talked shit about Dear Evan Hansen in our Violet episode. It was great.
Oh my God, I'm gonna have to listen to that as soon as I'm done recording.
Man, we've been talking a lot of shit about Dear Evan Hansen lately.
I will
haven't we?
As
never
we
stop.
should.
I will talk shit about that and Jagged Little Pill until they drag me away from my Twitter.
They already did that,
They
Jess.
did. I know. They kicked me off Twitter for tweeting about Jagged Little Pill. It's so sad.
Every time I tweet about Jagged, I'm the one who just ends up ratioing them. It's a fun time, and by fun I mean very traumatic. Yeah.
Thank you guys for listening. Haley, is there anything else you want to say before we wrap this on up?
Not really. I just love y'all, and this was really fun. And yet again, stream higher power by Coldplay.
Hell yeah. We'll see you next time on Musicals with Cheese.
All right, do it, Jess.
I'm trying to think of what I'm going to do. Hold on.
Do it.
Everybody into the kitchen. Here comes Marvin.
I knew he was gonna do that one.
What do you want me to do? Living in trousers, breathing in trousers, existing in trousers, living in trousers. I'm in trousers. You're in trousers. Ah!